Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the International Grapevine. This is your host, Wallingford Lee. Tonight in International Grapevine, we're going to talk a very touchy subject that's worldwide. We're talking about the challenges that faces women in the business world today, the ups, the downs, and what are some of the things that have held back certain women in professional business or in the corporate world. And also, we want to talk about the great job that a lot of entrepreneurs have done in this business. Again, the business world is such a complicated thing sometimes, and there's a certain amount of discrimination against women in certain parts. We're pleased today to have as our special guest none other than Dr. Neva Alexander, who happens to be a professional speaker, advisor, and trainer, and has been in the business world for a long time. It took us a while to get her, and of course, it gives us a great deal of pleasure and, of course, satisfaction to have her on our program to talk about such a sensitive subject, such as the challenges that are facing women today. Dr. Neva, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Good. It's good to have you. I want to talk a little bit about, the business world and women. We want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial business, a little bit of the corporate world, given enough time. What are some of the biggest challenges or a woman actually prepare for the business world today?
Oh man, first I want to say that the challenge faced by, women in general is one thing, but the challenges faced by a Black woman is another. And challenge faced by a Black woman from an international background is another instead. So some of the challenges that I face is resistance to open the door, resistance to trust the business to give you finance. When you go to get a loan, the requirement sometimes is just tedious and not really, make it easy for you. I've spoken to individuals who give loans and they're like, well, we have to put a mortgage on your house in order to give you a business loan, and you're like, but why? You also find challenges where you have, me personally, I feel like I have to sell myself an extra step. It's just not enough for me to say that I went to do my doctorate and I have a doctorate in educational leadership. It's not enough. You always have to try to attain more, get more, prove yourself, and I don't think it is always like that. I don't think it's like that for my counterparts, so that's what I see. Finance and just proving who I am and saying, hey guys, take me seriously, and then another challenge that I find when I'm doing things in the international realm is like, okay, you're a woman, so we might be able to take advantage of you. So at times I have to smile and say, okay, thank you, but it's time to move on.
Obviously it's very tough, especially with certain lenders who doesn't understand what you're trying to do, and some lenders tend to be prejudiced at time. Is this mostly against minority or women in general?
I'm going to say minority because I deal with, so my business, Neva Lines, I offer what I call career services. It's actually a career school here in Florida, and I do business also in New York. So part of it, not just, helping business to grow. I also offer classes that are specific to the trade. Now, in reference to your questions, or that particular question, I should say, minority, in a sense, have to, I've heard men, black men, um, they still have to prove themselves or have to go knocking at that door a few times before they're able to get loans. Some don't even bother. They decide, you know what, let me just keep going and climbing the business step by step, and maybe borrow from family members or whatever, but just trust in the bank. The bank, I don't know, they'll come in and say, we are offering minority um, loans and there are opportunities, but then you find that you have to, there are like whoops that you have to keep jumping through and you still won't even get there. So
Well, our understanding is that supposedly SBA has made it a little bit much easier for women in terms of startup business, in terms of moving forward. They claim what the SBA tend to do is ask for us an involved business plan. Can you walk us a little bit whether the SBA has made a difference? Walk us through how a business plan is prepared. Walk us through as how long it takes for a return from a lender or the SBA to give an answer in those projects.
well, you know what? I wasn't that successful to get any kind of loan, all the loans that were given away. I know others that were, a little bit luckier than I am. Kudos to them, but I wasn't able to. But I do assist businesses with a business plan in my program that I have. And pretty much what the banks or any lenders they're looking at is the finance. So we can talk about how you're going to market your business, what your business structure looks like, your organizational charts, all that great stuff. But they're looking at um, the return. You know, you're spending this, and when are you going to make back your money? Right? So that's what they're looking at. On the other aspect, with your question in reference to how soon that you'll hear back from them, I mean, it can be anywhere from a week to a month. So that depending on how many applications they're looking at, depending on, the type of loan that you're looking to get. So it varies.
Let, let's touch on a startup. And a reason for a startup, as you mentioned before, they usually tend to give women a hard time. As a startup, I imagine they're going to ask you for a business plan. What and how much is involved into a business plan? Otherwise than saying, I want to do this type of business. Are they going to ask you if you have the background before they consider you for a loan? Or they're just going to look at your business plan and look at the projections of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and supposedly the return that is expected? Are they being fear-minded on these type of things? Are they very involved? Or can a woman go somewhere and get a business plan properly prepared in order to satisfy the SBA?
Can someone go, or a minority woman, get a business plan done to satisfy the SBA? I would say yes,
Mhm.
but I don't know the percentage. I have not looked at the statistics of, to say this amount is actually getting the help that they need. Now, I did run through what's entailed in a business plan, but if someone came to me for a business plan to be done, I basically do a Zoom call, like maybe 4 or 5 times in the process. I also have someone else on my team who they're very involved with the numbers. Again, yes, a bank is going to look at the overall because they want to make sure that you're marketing. They want to make sure that this business that they're invested in, because that's really what they're doing, is going to sustain time. But it always go back to the number. If you're going to show, well, um, I'm going to start doing this gas business, and they realize that gas business is not going to make money within a year, are they going to give you the loan? I mean, that's just normal. But what if you have a good structure and it shows that you might be able to really, you might have a good business. What they will they might give you something, but not enough that you might be able to move forward, and how much they give you, that's another, another thing that you need to look at. So some people just abandon that thought and yeah, move on.
If they're abandoning the thought because they're not getting the lending, where would they go to get the funds? Would they go to family, or would they look for structure outside from other business company who might give them the loan?
They probably look for unconventional, but first people usually go to their family. Their Is depending on their age, their mom, their father, their brother, their sister, their cousins, uncles, whatever. And then the next step is they're try to get into different organizations to see if the organizations can recommend someone to, help them. And then I've gone to different networking events and I've meet different individuals that, they'll say, well, we could give someone a loan based on their W-2. So if they made over a certain amount per year, we'd be able to do that, give them a loan. But the rate may not be favorable. And that's why some will rather stick with the SBA or just try to continue pushing forward.
Is there such a thing that sometime, whether the lender or the private lender does not feel they're qualified, would they request that the borrower put up their house as a collateral? And if that is the case, how widespread that is, and is that convenient? Does that make any type of sense?
Well, I spoke with a lender a while ago. Again, I just want to say, like, I'm not deep into financing, just disclaimer. So
Hmm.
I mean, my business is more just, I do a lot of training development. And again, it's a career school. But yes, I speak to lenders and all the time because they reach out to me, based on the individuals that I'm working with, the startups, to get their business going. Again, I created a program to really help startups go forward. It's like a one-on-one mentorship that I do. But, when I speak to the lenders, they'll say, yes, they need collateral, right? Yeah, I could lend up to, one told me she could lend up to $1 million, but they have to have assets. They have to have, something, preferably, of course, their house, and they'll have to put a lien on their home in order for them to get the loan. And most startups, they can't do that, and they don't want to go into that type of risk. I mean, who does?
Well, one of the reasons why we want to talk about these type of things, we're reading in the newspaper the rise of businesswomen, entrepreneurs, that they are growing so much. We got extremely excited. Sometimes we wonder from the newspaper to the news how serious these reports are of growth, because we also know that a couple of women have experienced some of the problems that you mentioned there, where they can't get off, they can't even get to first base. Some of them cannot even get in the office, and some of them feel that their presentation is excellent, and sometimes they don't get the loan. So we were excited to hear about all this rise of entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Do you see, based on the type of job that you do, that women are growing as entrepreneur more today?
There are more women that are excited about the prospect of opening their own business. Now, I mean, during the pandemic, you find a lot will say, I've been working my tail off all these years. Why not start business? And that's where I found a lot of my clients, I should say, or my students. Um, and like, if I worked with 20 individuals, out of that 20, you'll find 15 that are female, really wanting to move forward. But the question really should it be, they start, but are they able to continue on? Because there's one thing to start, but there's the other, the endurance, and having a team in place to really take your business to the next level. Now, exactly what do I mean? I love to help people get started, because it's like their dream is finally coming through. But then they start And then what's next? What do they have on the plate to, because as an entrepreneur, new person, you realize there's so many expenses that you have to think of. Your overhead, right? It's like you are, imagine you are in your restaurant. Sometimes you're the cook, you have to wash the dishes, you have to serve the food. At the end of the day, you're just burnt out. And then if you hire people to help you, that's cost that you probably can't really pay, and you need proper people with the proper service or etiquette to help individuals. So it's just a lot that comes with operating a business. So yeah, they're enthusiastic, they're coming, they want to start a business, yay, but then afterwards it's a lot, and it takes a very strong-minded person and individuals that have support to keep going.
Well, some of the things that help a lot of women is having a strong ability and support behind them. Just as you mentioned, startup is a very difficult thing. And you mentioned also restaurant. Restaurants open and close a lot because restaurant is a very good business, but a lot of things has to do the area where you have it, where it's located, your background, the type of employees you have, and the type of product that you're putting out there. But again, restaurants are good business, but again, sometime at the beginning you do struggle sometime, and you just can't throw in the towel. You have to go forward. But again, you mentioned the cost, you mentioned the expenses, which is a lot of things that are really, really, truly involved in order to take them to the second tier of the business. So I imagine that you see a lot. Some of them walk away, some of them go deep into it. Do you see a lot of that, or it's kind of toned down a little bit now?
In reference to restaurants, I'll see people open up. The average time span for restaurants, I don't know if you know, is 2 years. So they'll start, they're excited. And then I remember going into a restaurant, and I was so excited because I'm more into, I eat a lot of fish, not really a meat eater. So there's a restaurant that pretty much Caribbean that caters to, selling, seafood, stuff like that. And and vegetarian meals, and I was excited about that. And I made it a duty just whenever I'm in that area to support, even if it's just to buy something small. Then after 6 months, I went to this restaurant, and basically I just knew it was just going to go down. Great food and everything, but um, he was really trying to do everything himself. And we spoke, and he was like, he can't afford to hire help because he's not getting enough people in the door, which is also a part of marketing and promotion, and that costs too, right? So it's safe to say that if you, and I always say, if you're going to open up any kind of food business, yeah, people eat. It's one of the things people, you have to have a roof over your head, you have to eat, and you have to dress, right? So those areas you do make money, but if it's not promoted right, or you have the support necessary, unfortunately, as good as you are, you might fall. And I always give the analogy of the singers. There's some singers out there, you go, they can't really sing, but everybody knows about them. And there's some talented superstars. You hear their voices, you're just like, wow, but nobody really hears about it. There's a reason behind that. And then, you give up on your dream and you do something else. And so there's always that, going back to initial question, in, as I said, restaurant has a span. Now, if you passed a certain time, I would say 3 years, most likely you're going to keep going based on
Very interesting.
statistics.
Very interesting. We're here with Dr. Neva talking about the challenges that women face in business today all around, and some of the tough part that minorities have faced. So we're going to continue talking in the second half of this program about the growth of business, the expectation from women, and the expectation also from the public going forward. We'll be right back on International Grapevine as we continue talking about the challenges that faces women in the corporate world and business world in general. We'll be right back. And again, this is Mr. Lee from the International Grapevine. We're pleased to have our special guest on our program today, Dr. Neva, who has been kind enough to visit us to talk about the challenges facing women in general in the business world and the inequality that some of them face. Sometimes also the gender problem that they face. And it's a tough business out there, even in the corporate world of Wall Street. I'm sure that most women who are executive does not get the proper pay that they deserve as some men get. And the amount of doors that they had to knock down to get to Wall Street and to be in the corporate world. So we jumping around, but it should give our viewing audience a flavor how much things have changed, how much woman has grown. And let's not forget that woman is the mother of civilization. So all of us came here through a woman, and the due respect we should give them at all time, and especially in the business world. And Dr. Neva has been so kind to be a special guest. Dr. Neva, how much fear plays in a woman's mind when she gets into business, especially when she gets turned down or she gets pushed back and she has to keep knocking and kicking doors down to get? How much does fear play, and how long it takes care of some women to get over that fear and keep pushing the cart in the right direction?
You know what? For me personally, I heard a lot of no's and I'm still hearing no's. But those no's to me, I turn it into music. I turn it off. Like, listen, I I said this the other day to someone. I don't view myself as average. Take that as you may. So I have to take that mindset and be confident in who I am, confident in what I possess, confident in what I'm offering, right? So if I know I'm a good trainer, I'm a good teacher, I have the knowledge, right? I'm not just reading off Google to give you information. I've studied and I've researched and I've experienced it, right? So yes, have I been again, I've been told no a lot of times, but I'm not going to make those no's deter me. And is there a fair factor? Yes, because sometimes you're tired of hearing those no's, and you start looking at yourself like, what am I doing wrong? I see, you know, Janet over there, she's doing magnificent, and we have the same product, but also remember not to compare yourself to others. Be you, stay in your lane. I always try to be a better version of myself, to go better than what I did yesterday, right? So look at fair as motivation. Don't look at it as something that holds you back, because if you want to be successful in business itself is a risk. And millionaires will tell you that. If you haven't been able to talk to a millionaire personally, you can hear some of their stories out there, and they'll tell you, the ones that are truthful, right? The real ones, they will tell you what it is. So you can't just make fear set you back. You got to take all those no's, keep knocking till you get that yes. And when you get that yes, work that yes.
How important is a support system for a woman in a case like that?
Very important. You really need a support system. You really need, and I would say, an army. It's like a village to raise a child. I truly believe in that. And
Hmm.
so in business, it's like that. And you also need individuals not just being around you from what they can get out of you, because I deal with that too. People not being genuine. So you have to find individuals that are truly genuine and believe in what you have and believe in collaboration and leveraging, especially when you don't have the funds to really push forward. And sometimes even some of your family members may not really gravitate to your idea at first, right? But maybe once they see you keep going, they'll say, okay, let me, join in and try to help, and be a part of this team. I mean, hey, when I first started out, my mom, she would be always there at events, being at the, when I do these public events, being at the door, doing whatever. And she didn't want anyone to just touch my money. I had an adopted grandma. She passed away, but she would always be there for me, right? Because they really saw what I was doing. And also, on the flip side, my mom is a successful businesswoman now after trying for many years. Now she's at that side of whenever I'm able to, I help her, and I'm always there helping her. So I'm always on her side as a support system. So it's important. And sometimes it's not just your family member, a stranger, someone that you sometimes never met before. I've had those that look out for me. They've never seen me face to face, maybe on camera, never see me face to face, but they're there to support. They're sending individuals to me, or they're helping me in some sort of way. So, as I said, it's so important. I mean, we want to say we did it by ourselves, but it really takes that village. But you need to have people who have your best interests at heart.
It seems to me, speaking to you, it's very clear that mentorship is extremely important in a lot of
Of course.
situations when you're going into business. You have to have, in some cases, depending on the individual, a mentorship who can push and say, yes, you can do it. Yes, you're going to face this. Yes, this is step one. Yes, this is step two. So any woman listening to this and going into business should think sometime about a mentorship. Ask a proper question. Seek the mentorship. How important is the mentorship to you in
I
general?
offer mentorship. I am a mentor. I offer mentorships to many individuals. I work with individuals that have their businesses. After sometimes I set up the business, people come back and said, you know what? I still need you around. I still need you for accountability, right? I still need certain things, and I, help them through a process. You understand? So, and even myself, did I have mentors? Yes, I do. So it's extremely important. Some people go, "Oh, we don't want mentorship," but you know what? You can be a brave soul and try it on your own, but every trust, even on the highest level of individuals, there's someone may not have as much money as you, but they may have the knowledge and the know-how, and they can even, because it's also important that you have that mental balance, and they may be able to keep you on that mental balance, not just business path, mental balance. So it's extremely important to have a mentor, especially I would say the first year or two of your business.
Which brings me back to another part closely mentioned. It's important for women to defy expectation because of the roadblocks that are put ahead of her to get to where she wants. And as you mentioned, mentorship is good. We mentioned fear, which you spoke about, very good. So define the expectation is extremely important to get to your goals in a lot of ways. And it's also important to understand the inequalities that go to face your business as a woman, the law, you must know the law, the rules, the regulation, the culture situation. So all these type of things play a very, very important part of the business world and preparation for a woman. And I would imagine in your speaking engagement that you tend to talk about these things and touch about all these type of things that are important to them going forward. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely. Of course, talking about the woman empowerment, I do, the International Women's Day Conference. Um, so whenever I speak is always, to motivate women, and also um, making sure they know what resources are available and bringing those individuals to them.
It's very important. Again, the business world, they try to make it complicated. It's not as complicated as it should be. What the tough part is the things that we talk about financing. be prepared, making the next step. We read in the one of the Long Island papers how much entrepreneurship have grown, especially for minorities in Long Island. A lot of them who have their own salon, the hair business, the restaurant, and things like that. So I got extremely excited. But as I did more research, I found that one section of Long Island is doing very good, and another section of Long Island they just can't seem to get off first base, which cover the things that we talked about in terms of the SBA, in terms of lenders, and in some cases, I think some of the chambers of commerce have came aboard to help women get in finance, and it has worked for some of them, but there's still a big long road to go forward. As we continue talking about, what would you see? What would you like to see as a better change or chances for women going forward starting their own business? What would you like to see if there was one thing that you could change or move in the right direction for them? What would that be?
Oh, wow. I would say, or just off the top of my head, just better and realistic things in place. And what do I mean by that? Um, there are loans out there, but they're not realistic to the everyday woman that is, they're trying to do business. The next that I would say is just having support in place, a place that they really can turn to. Now, people say, well, you have the chambers, you have this and that, but I do believe there are things that need to be tightened to make it more effective, not just talk the talk, but do the walk for those that are out there trying to help women.
Well, on that strong note, we want to take this opportunity on behalf of the family of Grapevine for, first of all, thank you so much for being our special guest and bringing all these things to our attention and to our viewing audience. We don't have words to thank you. We know that you're for a fact, because you came highly recommended. You're an excellent speaker, presenter. You've even talked to the United Nations, and we view you. We thank you for your point of view because you brought a lot of important things in that our viewing audience is going to enjoy in this program in terms of talking about the challenges facing women out there in business. We're talking about Black, white, Oriental, Latinos. It's a tough world out there. And again, we don't have words to thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to interview you about this subject.
And I just want to say thank you so much for your time and bringing this information to the public based on your knowledge, and you've seen the importance of it. So thank you so much for having me here on your program. And I hope whoever watched this video will share it to others, that more individuals can get the knowledge that you are trying to impart to the public.
And again, I thank you so much for your kind word, and we look forward to working with you down the road again because you've been our special guest and you did a bang up job very, very well. We don't have words to thank you in behalf of the family of the Grapevine.
Bye.